Welcome to the Gold Standard here on the 440 Sports Network. My name is Braden Gall. You can follow me on the internet at Braden Gall.
I'm Emma Lingan. You can follow me on the internet at Emma_Lingan.
I barely made it to Carolina's victory last night. I made it all the way to that point of the night. I stayed up. I was drifting in and out of sleep, but I stayed up, and one playoff series in the NHL is done as Carolina knocks off the Devils in overtime in game number 5, wins the series 4-1. Emma up late at night, just bathing in the sewers, posting memes and GIFs and just hanging out all over the place. So it's been a really, really fun first round. Like, truly, you got goalies being pulled. You got teams making comebacks. You got Edmonton on a 3-game winning streak after going down 2-0. You got the Landeskog story. That series has been drunk back and forth as well in Dallas and Colorado. The Western Conference has been spectacular. Toronto's on the verge of doing very Toronto things. So it's just been a ton of fun. And I want to ask you if there's anything we can learn about this and kind of get your thoughts on what you're seeing. So we'll do that. The AHL Calder Cup trophy is on the line as the Milwaukee Admirals, second two-time division champs, are going to start their series on Thursday. They got the first round bye. Don't look at an AHL bracket. It will make you feel drunk. because all the different number of teams and all the different divisions. So, but they get started. 10 different Predators players who played in the NHL are going to be on that AHL team, and a couple guys that got brought over just late in the end of the season from overseas. So, lots of interesting stuff. What can we learn? What can we do? How should fans be watching the AHL as well? So, lots of fun stuff there. And of course, we start with the radio silence being utterly deafening out of 501 Broadway right now, with still no news 2 weeks later. 2 weeks, Emma. The last Predators hockey game was 2 weeks ago today, and I am assuming at some point after this show is done, we are going to get some news or some word or something about something. I don't know. Other coaches have been fired around the league, Emma. Jobs are opening. I think there are 8 jobs now in the NHL, which is like a bloodletting. It's nuts. So lots of stuff to do. Sinkers, Beverages, and Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. Of course, make sure you stay support good local businesses here in town. Liquor Store of the Year, Sinkers, Beverages, 4-time Liquor Store of the Year, and of course, you've got Shotgun Willie's Barbecue, the best brisket in the city. Nate and Kevin, good to see you guys early in the comments. And I guess I just want to start real fast because I'd like this not to go out of date. Because we are recording, of course, live at 10 a.m. on Wednesday, like we always do. And Emma, there's no telling when this could happen either way, whether they have a press conference to announce that Andrew Brunette is returning, or they have a press conference to announce that they have moved on from Andrew Brunette. It could happen at any moment. So I don't want it to go out of date. So I'm going to ask you sort of why and how each of those paths has taken place. But I just want to start first and foremost with your gut instincts on why this is happening. What is going on at 501 Broadway?
I don't know. And, to your earlier point about how many coaching openings there are right now in the NHL, and we talked about this last week, that was when there weren't even 8 openings yet, and this was still true. That hurts the Predators if they were looking to make a coaching change, because now they've got to compete with all of these other markets that need coaches, and it's an uphill battle, especially after the season that they just had in Nashville. So, I mean, and we don't need to rehash all that. We talked about it last week about why that hurts the Predators, but at this point, the more coaches get fired around the league, Mike Sullivan, and then Rick Tockett's out in Vancouver, and all of these, it's like the more that happens, the more I look at Nashville as like, okay, yeah, they're keeping Brunette. They have to. But at this point, it has taken so long for them to confirm or deny that at this point, it's going to look like if they don't fire Brunette, it's because they missed on someone else. And it just seems like at this point, like, otherwise, why is this taking so long?
It's really just a great situation all around, Emma, like for everybody involved. It's great. It's great for Barry Trotz, great for Andrew Brunette, great for the players, great for the fans, great for those of us in the media. I will say, I think there's been, so when you're in one of these moments where it feels very, and this will be more of like a reporting kind of media comment here. When you're in one of these sort of gray areas, where you don't kind of know what's happening and you've exhausted all sources and you've talked to everybody, you're making sort of informed speculation, trying to be as smart as you can about what's going on, but you are using like really tiny things to try to give yourself a little bit of insight as to why something is happening. Like, oh, I'm not getting any text messages back from that person now. What does that mean? It may mean absolutely nothing. It may mean that person is busy, but it also might mean that they're not allowed to talk about anything right now. Like you just don't know. You don't know. And you're going on these little tiny morsels of information that are more context than actual information. and that's where we are right now with this. Cause like they have done this. And I assume they have done this for a reason. And I don't know. I to your point, none of them are really good reasons, honestly. Right? Is there a good one here?
No, I mean, that's the thing is if they wait this long only to tell us that they're keeping Andrew Brunette, then that clearly means they missed on someone else. I'm sorry. You can try to spin that however way you want. But
what else could it be?
Exactly. And then if they wait this long to hire someone, it's because they're hiring someone, then it's kind of the John Hines, Andrew Brunette situation all over again, where it's like, why did we let this drag on so long? But again, I just think it's like you said, those little contextual morsels. It's like each one is just like another piece of tinfoil to add to the hat because we're just trying to figure out exactly like what's happening and speculating wildly, which you would think the organization would want to shut down from happening, but yet here we are.
So I want to try to kind of go down both paths and sort of talk through what each one means relative to decision making, to process, because here's the other thing that you got to remember. Like, you could end up with a great result. The Titans fans know all about this. You could end up with a really good result and the process be totally foobar. You could have really great processes and end up with a bad result. The best organizations are the ones that have really like smart, thorough, efficient processes and get good results. So this feels like there's a chance, and I can make this argument for both of them actually, that there could be a good result out of this for the organization, for the fans, for the team, whatever. But it feels like the process is a little wonky. It feels like the process is out of whack. It feels like it's messy. It doesn't feel crisp. It doesn't feel decisive. And that may not mean anything if the result is good by the end of this conversation, by the end of this saga, whatever you want to call it, like not press conference saga. I don't know. It's not that big of a saga. It's just like, what is happening?
It's becoming a saga because it's taken so long. It doesn't need to be a saga, but it is one.
Right. A couple of comments here before we get into each path, because I want to sort of get your thoughts on it. They've decided to keep Andrew Brunette. What does that mean from a decision-making process, and what does it mean from a result standpoint? And then I want to do the other version of this so that, again, this podcast stays evergreen and we can talk through what it all means and not just scream about the fact that we don't know yet. Kevin says in his best voice, Beavis and Butthead voice, fire. That's my best one there. Nate says, I'm 42. I watched a lot of Beavis and Butthead. Nate says, we talk about Stamkos taking long to adjust coming from Tampa. Camp hasn't started yet, but how long before this hurts players because they have to learn a new system from a new coach if Brunette's gone? Zero right now because the players are doing nothing. The players are fishing. They're on the beach. They're with their families. They're changing diapers. Yossi's sitting in a small dark room somewhere. Like these are, this is what the players are doing. So I don't think that's a concern at all. Brunette's not getting a head start on a coach who's not getting a head start the first 2 weeks during the Stanley Cup playoffs to get ready for next year's camp. So I don't think that's a problem. Josh says at this point, if they don't make a change, it looks like they missed on someone else. That is exactly what Emma has said as well. And it just looks like a bad process regardless of what they end up doing. All right, let's start with they keep Andrew Brunette. So if you want to make the case for the result being okay, is that as things that were out of their control changed, they adapted and evolved their plan. Things like other coaches being fired, other jobs becoming available. Had an opportunity to hire this guy, Coach A. Turns out now that you're let's call it the 5th best job instead of the 8th best job or the 2nd best job available, that you end up with Andrew Brunette maybe still as your best possible option. There's a world in this crazy messed up process that Andrew Brunette is the best option for this team. And that is where you might have a good result because the person you're going to go get now is not necessarily better than him. But that process is still messed up. And what kind of message does it send to Brunette? Because what are you having a conversation with behind closed scenes with him about? Well, hey, Barry, why did it take you so long to tell me I'm coming back? Maybe he's already been told that. Maybe he hasn't. You talk me through how you would analyze right now. They announced this afternoon he's coming back. What does it tell you about the last 2 weeks, their decision, Barry Trotz's strategy, and the team moving forward?
Again, it's not a great vote of confidence in Andrew Brunette if it has taken this long for them to say, all right, yeah, he's coming back. He's our guy. He's coming back. Because if you felt that confident about him, then why didn't you tell us before? And so I feel like at this point, like you said, it's the process looks very messy, and it shows a little bit of a lack of confidence in the plan or whatever it is. It's like, well, and you've talked about this before, Braden, saying like, well, we would want we want a plan. We want you, Barry Trotz, to feel like be firm in your plan. Whatever that plan is, just stick to it and run with it. And right now, it's like the longer this goes on, the more it's like, we don't actually know what the plan is. So even now, if they come out 2 weeks after the season's over and they say, yep, Andrew Brunette's our guy, it's too late. It's too late at this point for you to sell the fan base on this being the right move, because it just shows that you're not confident in your guy. The only reason he's still here is because you missed on someone else or you couldn't find anyone better. Like, I mean, that's just what the message is to the fan base. And I don't see, if you're Barry Trotz, I don't see how you can spin it any other way.
I totally disagree. Again, and I'm not saying this is how I feel, but in theory, you could still end up with the best possible coach in that situation.
Yeah.
But how you got there is a total mess.
Right.
Because of what you're saying. The message you're sending to everyone out there, whether it happened or not, is that you were trying to do something, couldn't do it, and now you're sort of settling.
Right.
You're like back with your ex. Like it's not the thing, it's not the way you want to do it. Because if you come out, because here's what's interesting, and I don't know if you could have done this or not, and I cannot remember a time that this has happened. I don't in any sport, but I'm sure it has, especially in college football. Like you could come out right after the season and say Andrew Brunette's going to be our head coach next year, and then still conduct all the business, right? And if you happen to get Mike Sullivan on the phone after he gets fired and he tells you, man, I'd love to be in Nashville, man, you make a decision change, and then you come to the podium and you say, new shit has come to light, man. Like you say things changed. We had to adapt. We had to make a different decision. I know it that might also be viewed as sloppy, but it wouldn't be. It would be, this is our guy. This is our plan. We're sticking with him, which is, again, you're going to have to sell that to the fans, even if you do that, 2 days after the season's over, and what that vision is and why you're doing it, and then have to tell everybody why you changed your mind. But I think a sign of mature adulthood is the ability to change one's mind when new information comes to light. I don't think that makes you some like two sides of your mouth hypocrite. I think it just makes you an adult. But
no, especially when that new information is this really high quality, high caliber head coach has become available, who was not available at the time that our season ended. So we had, like the best thing to do at that point was to reiterate our confidence in our current head coach, because we didn't believe that there was anyone else available who would be better.
Well,
now,
and
circumstances have changed.
I think you actually have to twist that message a little bit, and you have to say, no, we were never going to move on Andrew Brunette, but this is a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Right.
And then you get a little blowback for like a couple of days. As soon as the news cycle rolls away, it's all clean, and we're going to battle with Mike Sullivan or whoever, Rick Tocchet, whatever the answer is, Joel Quenneville.
Yeah.
There's a way to message this stuff that makes you look very buttoned up, convicted, and organized. and that's not what's happening.
Right, because if it had gone that way, if he came out, day after the season ended and said Andrew Brunette's our guy, and then Sullivan or Tocchet, whoever comes
Right.
available, they go get him. Yes, that's changing the message in a way, or you're changing your mind, but the message it sends is like, wow, look at Barry Trotz. He's such a go-getter.
He went out and got his guy. Yeah.
He went out and got his guy, whatever it took, as soon as that guy became available.
Yep.
And so, like, yes, it's a change in the plan, so to speak, but it reflects positively. Like you said, there might be a little bit of chatter for like a day or two, but then at the end of the day, the message is, wow, look at how badly he wants this team to improve. He went out and was aggressive about it, and we love to see that.
A couple of really good questions from Chris here. So first one is there a head coach that is currently coaching in the playoffs that would realistically become available? And Kevin says you'd think that'd be someone off a staff. I don't know enough about the rest of the league to know if somebody in the playoffs is getting fired or would leave their job. So you tell me if what do you think about those questions there?
Well, I mean, there wouldn't be anyone to like leave their job, but
Right.
In a head coaching position, I mean, it's kind of funny. Like, I don't know if the Leafs lose in the first round, which it looks like they might. Thinking. I'm like, maybe Craig Berube, but again, I don't know. I think that everyone else, it just seems like there isn't anyone in the playoffs head coaching wise who I could theoretically see getting fired and then being a better option for Nashville right now. I mean,
who's the coach of the Kings? I don't even know who the coach of the Kings is, but if they were to choke away a two-game lead and lose for the fourth straight year to Edmonton, could that be one of those where people are like, enough?
No, but I don't know. Because for them, it's their GM who's the problem. That's pretty clear.
See, there you go. But this is why you're on the show. Okay, well, I do think, again, you could end up waiting and getting to a good result, which is that we have no other better options than Andrew Brunette, based on things, some of which might be out of their control, other jobs changing. But it was a totally messy process to get there. Here's a really interesting question. I don't think this is possible, but I do think it's worth debating, and that is Chris saying, could Trotz be giving Andrew Brunette time to digest, self-diagnose, and then my follow-up, in addition to your question, Chris, would be to present those changes to the general manager and front office to show them this is the plan for the offseason and for the team next year. Here's where we're going to make adjustments. Basically what Stamkos said with soft power and what Marchessault said with more direct power at the end of the season, that they need adjustments and they want things to happen. So is it possible that it feels like that's a really long time, especially since this whole entire organization was self-digesting all in the second half of the season?
Yeah, it's not. That's the thing, is that this season has been over since December, basically. I mean, no one wanted to admit it, but it was. And it's not like it came to a just heartbreaking, gut-wrenching end where it's like, oh, we were so close and then we lost it. Like, well, now we have to go back to the drawing board. No, they were not close. And so I think that to that end, I think there are a lot of conversations that are being had, and questions and people that Barry Trotz needs to talk to, and then he's got to weigh those. Like, well, how much does Jonathan Marchessault's opinion weigh against someone else's? I don't know, because I'm not in those conversations, but I just think that they're looking at the draft. There's a lot of things going on behind the scenes right now, but it's the same things that every other team is dealing with, and every other team's GM has talked to the media.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit like, I don't know.
Yeah,
I think it's
Christopher said, is the coach of the Admirals an option? Carl Taylor, of course. And we've been over this story a long time. He's had so many chances, both with the Preds and elsewhere, and has been largely not a major factor in those coaching searches. So it does feel like that what they are saying through their behavior, the NHL and the Predators in particular, is that he's not a serious candidate. Now, I mean, at some point he would be for somebody, you would think, because he's done a pretty good job developing players. With a veteran roster full of guys like Stamkos and Marchessault, it doesn't seem like he's the right fit there. All right, so let's go down the path of they've made a decision to fire him, and the announcement is he's gone. What does that tell us about the end result in the process? Because I assume most of you listening are saying that's a great result, but I think going back to the previous sort of choose your own adventure here by keeping Andrew Brunette, and I think Josh says this, even if he's back, it's a clear leash. It's clear that the leash is very short. And Wyshynski said this with my conversation with him last year, which is you put yourself at the front of the line. If he's bad at the start of the season and you fire him at the start of the season, you put yourself at the front of the coaching search line instead of right now the very back of the coaching search line. Right now, you might be the 7th best job or the 6th best job or the 4th best job, but you're last to get into the pool. If you were to fire him in October or November next year, you could, in theory, be the front of the line and doing more work than everybody else ahead of schedule. So, that's also maybe a sort of the thinking maybe in keeping him as well. What do you make of if they make the move now that other jobs are open, they've waited 2.5 weeks? Like what does it tell you about what they've been doing the last 2 weeks?
Well, I mean, I think it says a couple things. First, it says that, to my earlier point about Jonathan Marchessault or Steven Stamkos or whoever, like all those conversations with the players, I think that those probably carry a lot of weight for Barry Trotz. But I also think that if you come out and fire him now, then you feel very confident that you're going to be able to attract, a high quality coaching candidate, which I'm again, I feel like a lot of fans in Nashville have kind of an inflated sense of self-importance when it comes to like the allure of coaching here. It's really not that great, especially compared to a lot of the other jobs that are available. Again, for different reasons, New York, Chicago, original 6, that's a big deal. Boston, it's a big market, that's a big deal. Even teams like Anaheim and Philadelphia haven't been good lately, but they've got really talented young cores, and those are the kinds of rosters that certain types of coaches would be excited to coach. Nashville really is not that appealing when you look at it, like especially after the season that they just had. So it just seems like at this point, if you waited this long, it's because you realize how unappealing this job was. And that's why you didn't do it immediately. And now it's like, you got to be really sure. Plus, if you're Barry Trotz, and I've said this before, you've got to make sure you absolutely nail this hire if you do move on from Brunette and hire someone else. And I mean, there's no way to fully know that, no way to fully predict the future and what's going to work and what isn't. But like, you need to, if you're Barry Trotz, you need to have an honest conversation with yourself and be like, okay, I hired this coach to do this thing, but I built a roster that is better at doing this other thing. So now I have to decide which path I want to go down. And I think at this point, it's pretty clear you have to go with the roster. And whether it's right or wrong, it's just kind of the reality of it. It's what's real. And I think that all of the people saying like Barry Trotz is horrible, he needs to get fired, he's the problem, blah, blah, blah. I am not defending every decision that he's made in terms of the roster construction, but what I will say is that it's still too early to know if Barry Trotz is a good GM or a horrible one.
Yeah. Well, he's got an MO on how he handles end of season coaching situations.
Yes,
because this is not even unprecedented. This is not unprecedented, and I think that's part of the problem here. So I not to get to the overall sort of analysis of both paths here, but it does feel like the messy processes, to your original point, Emma, about having conviction in what you believe is the right path for the team it doesn't feel that he's overly convicted in the path that he should see clearly. And to your point about Marcia Show, here's the thing. He said something publicly that felt like pressure, that felt like a demand. It was to some degree, but relatively harmless. Stamkos even more tactful and political in his conversation. What do you think they are saying in private? And what do you think they're saying and how they're saying it is probably very different in private than how they're saying it out loud. So either way you slice it, the players are putting pressure on the coach. Privately, it's got to be stronger and different than because Jonathan Marchessault is not a guy who holds his tongue, which I appreciate. And so I think either way you go with this, based on what happened at the end of this tenure with Hines, albeit Barry Trotz not technically the general manager during that window, but was largely like the acting GM. There's an MO here that sort of paints a picture of a guy who's not convicted or has belief in his path that he has chosen. And that is ultimately a concern. Even if right now, today, on April 30th, Andrew Brunette's the best option for this team, and they decide to keep him. Or they move on from Andrew Brunette because that's the best option for the team. The process was messy either way. And learning how to execute your vision and your plan is part of growing into your skin as a general manager. I don't know how much time the organization has for that. Especially with all the scattershot decisions that felt very uncoordinated throughout the course of the regular season, packaged with the handling of this.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't care what the result is at this point. It's the process that has been, not to say I don't care. I'm saying in this conversation, it doesn't matter what the result is because the process was very messy. And with each passing day, it's making me have less faith in Barry Trotz as a GM.
Here's the deal. If you make the move on Andrew Brunette and you move on from him and you hire somebody else, you are starting the clock on yourself. If you keep him till next year, you do not start the clock on yourself until you were to happen to fire him next year. And maybe he's great and he learns something and the team is better and you don't have to fire him. And all of a sudden, the clock is not even a factor for you as a general manager. So if you're thinking through the interest of self-preservation, as we all do, there's also an element of this that Trotz doesn't want to start the clock on himself by firing 2 coaches in 2 years, which is what Greg Wyshynski said. Don't panic. Stay the course. See if Andrew Brunette can grow into his skin. See if Barry Trotz can grow into his skin. See if the roster and the system can kind of adapt and evolve with some extra time. See if some young players can come up and add some value. I get it. It doesn't feel very convicted and very like the vision doesn't feel clear, or he doesn't believe in it because it feels like there's waffling, and we'll see. Maybe, and here's the other thing. If you want to really go tinfoil, we know Andrew Brunette was dealing with some stuff in his personal life. There's also a chance that maybe this is being prolonged because he had to get out of town, and before he could have a conversation with Barry, he's got to deal with family stuff. Like I'm not saying that's what I know or that's what's happening, but sometimes extenuating circumstances do lead to delays in these things. You would think that would have been fairly quick, or that you would have done it before he leaves town. Like I'm grasping at straws here, Emma. So grasping at straws. Okay, Sinkers Beverages.
It's like they had a chance to control the narrative here, and they haven't. And that's how it's gotten to this point. So no matter what the result is or what the reasoning is behind this delay, even if it is something completely like an extenuating circumstance, like you said, at this point, like you can't put all the toothpaste back in the tube now because everyone's already, wildly speculating. So it just looks messy.
Yeah. Special thanks to Sinkers Beverages and Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. We raised over $3,000 for the Our Kids Foundation over the weekend with our NFL draft watch parties on Thursday and on Saturday. And to any of you Preds fans who happen to be out there, I don't think I saw a ton of you guys, but just a ton of fun hanging out with everybody. There's a few Lower Broad Hockey subscribers that are sort of like, what are we going to do for the NHL draft? And I'm like, well, we'll find out in the lottery, by the way. That's been announced May 5th. That's coming up next week. So we'll find out exactly where the Preds pick. I've already seen a couple of mocks that have the Preds picking Matthew Schaefer #1. And I'm like, God, like even the internet understands the Predator way. Like it's just ridiculous. But I want to say we might figure out something we could do with everybody for the draft. We're still working on that. But it could be a ton of fun to do like a watch party, especially with 3 picks in the first round for the first round. If that's possible, like I don't know, like 11 o'clock on a isn't the first round is always like a prime time, and then all the other rounds are the next day, like during the day, right? So maybe we do like a first round watch party of some sort. But Sinkers Beverages and Shotgun Willie's Barbecue might be able to help with that and give us some barbecue and some booze. So thanks to both of those great local businesses for supporting the cause last weekend, and for all the listeners who came out. We raised a bunch of money for kids, and so hard to argue with that outcome. Although the bourbon flight, Emma, I am not as young as I used to be, and I was in a lot of pain on Sunday. It was brutal. But I have yet to have a 2-day hangover. I woke up Monday fresh as a daisy, got to the gym, worked out, did all my work, got the kids to school, no problems. Still no 2-day hangover for me. 42 years and counting. Let's go.
That's good. Yeah. I'm definitely at the 24-hour hangover. Like my hangovers last a full 24 hours now. But like you said, by day 2, I'm good.
Oh, I went to bed Sunday night. I was still not right. So they were all like barrel pick. Josh asked best bourbon of the flight. There were a bunch of like sort of barrel picks. There was the barrel pick that I actually went on with a couple of listeners from Russell's Reserve that was very good. You can only get that at Sinkers. But there was a Stag, and I don't drink a lot of the Stag. But there was a very, very good, I think it was a barrel proof Stag that was it was probably my favorite of the group. Now, also it was the 4th one, and at that point, everything might have tasted delicious. So unsure. Quickly, speaking of being completely hammered, the NHL playoffs are totally drunk. And here's the one thing I like. First of all, it's been so much fun. I hope everybody's enjoying it. I know the ratings are kind of down relative to the NBA, which I think is interesting, but it has been a fantastic series, 2 weeks to start this playoff so far. And I think one of the things that stood out to me is the best goaltender on the planet cannot seem to figure things out in the postseason. You got Ottinger's been pulled. Skinner's been pulled. Markstrom last night was just insane. Like Carolina players were literally like celebrating goals they thought they had scored, and they didn't. So the goaltending has been utterly fascinating to me throughout the entire first couple of weeks. But it is a reminder that even the greatest goaltender in the world has problems in the playoffs, and you cannot hide from some of these things. And I don't think it doesn't make me feel better about UC Saros, but it does. It shows you that the playoffs is a different beast, and that you can be the greatest in the world, and you just never know how it's going to play out in the playoffs. And Saros has had 2 really good series: Vancouver last year and Carolina in the shortened season, where he's been very good in the playoffs. I don't have the playoff thing, the worry thing about Saros, as I'm watching a bunch of really good goaltenders, Ottinger, get pulled, because sometimes you just run into a great team on a great night and they do a bunch of great stuff against you in the playoffs. So,
I mean, I think the reverse is true too. Like certain goalies that weren't bad during the regular season, but you wouldn't have thought that they were going to be like lights out, just completely turn it on in the playoffs. Like Mackenzie Blackwood and like Anthony Stolarz, Freddie Anderson until he got hurt. Like none of those guys were really like,
right.
Vezina candidates. But I think that when they get to the playoffs, they turned it on. And it's, like to your point, it's a different beast, different animal. The New Jersey Carolina game was drunk. I was covering the Leafs Sens game for the Hockey News. And so I wasn't actually watching the first period. I didn't actually get to watch the Carolina New Jersey game until the start of overtime.
So
but
the
I kept
3-0 lead, and then the 4 goals in the second.
Yeah.
Totally
I kept like every couple minutes, because I was watching the Ottawa game, and then I just kept like glancing over, and I was like, is something wrong with is my computer glitching? Because like every minute I checked, someone had scored, and I was like, good Lord. Like, I knew that Carolina was going to be struggling without Anderson and net, but 3-0 off the hop. I mean, that
Yeah.
was like, oh geez. And then it was 3-1 and 3-2, then 3-3, then it was 4-3, then it was 4-4,
And
where
those
it
types of
stayed for a while.
and those types of games where you're sort of like, we got a chance to close out the series, we're the better team, and we just lost our goaltender, and we went down 3-0. But you figure out a way to win. Those are kind of those moments where you go, if you do make a deep run, you look back on that game and go, that's where it started, that kind of thing.
And
So
on the other end of the spectrum, you have the Toronto Maple Leafs, who are now 1-13 in their last 14 series clinching games in the playoffs. They have now had 2 chances to close this series out, and they haven't done it.
well, and I'm assuming Hellebuck will be amazing tonight because he's at home in Game 5 against St. Louis. Dallas coming back to go up 3-2. It feels like if they close out Colorado. By the way, Landeskog, also a great story. Just 3 years, if they were to come back, I do feel like if Dallas figures out a way to win the series after how they finished the season, and then kind of going down, and then losing in Colorado in Game 5, like I think you could this could be a really deep run for Dallas, especially although Edmonton, I guess, has made this big comeback. So I guess if Edmonton's still in their way, Edmonton Dallas still could be a big series pending. So yes.
Yeah, I'm just like, I still don't get Edmonton. Like, it still doesn't make sense to me. It's freaking like Evander Kane and guys like that, like carrying this team to these comeback victories. Like, I mean, okay, whatever it takes, but I don't know. I think Dallas, if they can get Heiskanen back, if they get past Colorado and they get Heiskanen back, they are a much more formidable opponent. Yeah, I still don't know. I'm happy with this Colorado Dallas series though, because at first,
It's been a lot of
we're
fun.
like, yeah, well, and then Dallas got those injuries and they lost 7 in a row to end the season, and you're like, well, crap, that this series is going to be a bust. It's not going to be fun.
Then they lose 5-1 at home in Game 1. You're like, oh, this is bad.
Yeah. And you're like, well, this sucks. But now, I mean, the Western Conference, man, it is so good. Every single series in the West was tied 2-2. And it's just been so good. I mean, nothing against the East. Those have been good too, but like
it's just kind of boring.
I mean, there's certain
Alex Carrier probably doesn't think so.
Well, certain series like Dallas, Colorado, and Edmonton, LA, even St. Louis, Winnipeg, you think like, okay, those are probably, you're not shocked if I tell you those series are tied. But then like even Vegas and Minnesota, like that is a series that I did not expect to be as interesting as it has been. So it's been fun.
There's a lot of knowledge there too between a lot of these teams, which is good. It's what makes playoff hockey special, is when you know each other well and you build up these memories and these frustrations and these relationships, and that's what makes playoff hockey great. So it's been a ton of fun. I don't think there's a ton to learn yet for the Predators, other than like, don't freak out about UC Saros in one game in the playoffs, because look at what's happening to goaltenders in the playoffs. This can happen to the best in the world. And I think UC Saros has, like, he's had a couple of really great moments in the playoffs too. So that's sort of what I was thinking about.
That's true. I also think in terms of things we can learn, it's that as if we didn't already know this, but this is just further confirmation that the Central Division is an absolute beast. And so any expectation that even with a new coach next year or not, that the Nashville Predators are just going to rocket straight to the top.
Dude, my mental roller coaster on whether or not they should or should not keep this guy is just, I'm exhausted, because like on Monday I was like, oh, they're going to make the move. And now I'm like, well, but look at all these openings. This is not the best time to go get a coach. Like, even I'm doing this now. So like, I don't know.
I am too. But the point is, new coach or not, any expectation that like, no matter what change gets made or doesn't get made, any expectation that you're just going to rocket straight to the top of the Central next year, you need a reality check if you think that that's the most likely outcome. Not saying it can't happen.
Is it likely that Utah is continuing to improve next year? Probably.
Oh yeah.
Is
Oh
it
yeah.
likely that Chicago is going to be better next year? Probably, although they can't be
Yeah.
any worse. So it could get even
Yeah.
tougher. It's going to get even tougher next year.
Yeah, no,
Sinkers.
Utah's the one that I keep leaving out, but because they're not in the playoffs, but important to note that I think they are going to be a lot better next year. So that's
I
yet another team that you need to
I
worry
was
about if you're
I was very
Nashville.
high on them in our preseason predictions that last
Yeah,
fall, and
yeah,
I still am very high on that team. They're going to come to. They need a couple of like veteran pieces, but they're going to be. I think they're going to be a very good team. So, just
yep.
super news all around for the Preds. Sinkers, Beverages, and Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. Last but not least, the Calder Cup gets started on Thursday night. The best of 5 series against the Rockford Ice Hogs, which is spectacular nickname for anybody playing hockey at any level. Of course, it's Chicago's affiliate, so if you need an extra reason to watch and get angry, you can root against the Blackhawks affiliate there. 10 different players from Nashville are going to be playing there, namely Svechkov, Del Gaizo, you know the list. A lot of them, they did get David Edstrom. He was the big piece in the Ekholm trade, right? Is that correct?
After off.
No, that was the Askarov trade. Okay.
Mhm.
Got him. He's going to be up on the team. He came back from Sweden. He's going to be on the team. Cole O'Hare is going to be there as well. First round bye, so they haven't played in 12 days. How do you think Predators fans should watch the series? How do you think what matters here? Because we want to see a championship and a deep run in playoff hockey because that's good for the players to experience that energy and that feeling, and it's fun to watch a good team play this year. But other than that, is there anything specifically you think fans should be paying attention to?
Um, I think that I mean, as far as individual players, like you said, we've seen these guys in Nashville. We've seen 10 of them in Nashville. Like, I don't think you're necessarily going to learn anything earth-shattering about any of them. But I think what you said before is kind of the most important part of this is you need these young guys to experience going on a deep playoff run. You need them to experience winning. If they're not going to do it up here, they got to do it somewhere. And I think that that is really valuable experience, in your formative years as you look into, becoming ideally an everyday NHL player. And some of these guys too, it's like they're going to play obviously much different roles, very different roles in Milwaukee than they did in Nashville. Like, you know, Del Gaizo isn't going to be your third pairing defenseman. He's probably going to be your top pairing defenseman, things like that. So I just think that it's just interesting to see the different roles that they can play and how they adapt in that way.
You got Svechkov, Weisblatt, Bellows, Kemmel, Lucchini, Del Gaizo, Stasny, Gravel, Ufko, and Matt Murray. I think learning the playoffs and just the feel of it and what it takes to win and the grind and every shift, every night you got to be on top of your game or you get eliminated. I think all of that is extremely valuable experience for the young players to learn. But here's the other thing: if these guys are all good enough to play in the NHL, and we can kind of limit that to sort of the top end prospects, right? If we're going to limit that to like, let's say Kemmel, Weisblatt, Svechkov, Stasny, that group, like the guys that you think have a chance to be in the NHL next year full time or on a more regular basis in the future, you kind of want to see them show that skill. Like this is like if you are Fedor Svechkov, truly, if you've been playing against NHL centers for the last 60 games, you should dominate. Like, and I'm not saying there's not another side of this coin, which is they haven't all played together, right? Teams that have all played together are going to have better chemistry and understand where each other are on the ice. And there's a trade-off in throwing a bunch of NHL players onto an AHL team. There's a trade-off there. But in theory, if you are all good enough to get long stints of action in the NHL, or a handful of you are, in theory, you probably should be pretty good in the AHL playoffs. Like Svechkov should be dominating games, I feel like, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you need to see that. You don't want to see guys like that disappear in these big, meaningful games. So
there you go. There you go. Any expectation from Edstrom at all? Top prospect, finally finished his Swedish season, and he's jumping again. Same kind of thing. Very talented, high level prospect, but being thrown into a group that he doesn't know a lot about yet.
Yeah, I wouldn't, and first time playing in North America too. I would not, there are some key differences there, and so I just think that I would just say don't read too much into how he performs in this playoff series as far as like just determining your overall opinion of him. A lot of people were kind of bitching about Barry Trotz. I forget when he said it, but I think he said on 1025 at one point this season that David Edstrom profiled as like a third line center. People were all up in arms about that because like, we already have, 4 third line centers. What are you doing? And it's like, okay, can we just not let that already taint our view of him and just like try and just watch this kid for who he is, and don't let, whatever role he plays in these playoffs define what he's going to be forever? Because of course, for the reasons you just said, if you're coming in, never played in North America before, you don't know these guys, nothing. Of course, you're not going to be put on the top. You're not going to be put in the top 6. You shouldn't be. That's irresponsible. Right. So let's just all like take a breath and just be patient.
But I am more personally interested in this playoff run for all the different dynamics that are at play. The big team is terrible, so I'm looking forward to something good, which is probably why I'm also enjoying the playoffs for hockey. I also have nothing to root for, so I'm just like enjoying the drunkenness. But like the regular team has been bad, so now I want to watch something good. But also, there's very few AHL teams that have had this many NHL players go down. The Preds are also expecting a lot of those players to try to come up next year and play more prominent roles on the team. There is an interesting dynamic with this particular AHL team and this particular group of guys. They're division champions, so there's expectations there as well. So I just think there's a different dynamic with this team that is more intriguing than normal, because it's been hard. I will admit, it's been hard for me to get into the Calder Cup playoffs when the Preds are playing in playoff games. So it's just been hard to do that, and I'm more interested now than I am before. So we're going to have some stuff on Lower Broad Hockey for you, by the way. Nick Keyser is going to be doing game stories and sort of recaps of situations. What did he see? What does it mean? So if you don't catch those games, make sure you're subscribed to Lower Broad Hockey. Emma's NHL Weekly is going to take a break, a little breather here, and Nick's going to fill in with a bunch of stuff on Lower Broad Hockey about the Milwaukee Admirals and what they're doing and how the games unfold and what the players are doing and what does it mean for all of you guys out there who are diehard Preds fans. So lowerbroadhockey.com, Sinkers Beverages, Shotgun Blaze Barbecue. Make sure you listen to Emma over on It's All Your Fault with Gover, with the Nashville Scene and the Nashville Post. What else you got for the good folks,
Emma? If you want more playoff coverage, I am doing the live show at the Hockey News every night during the playoffs, although this is a bad time to plug that because I will not be on tonight. But every other night during the playoffs, if you want to follow along with what's going on, all the drunkenness, all the craziness. It's been a lot of fun. So
it has been a lot of fun. It's a good show. If you want to cover if you want all your NHL coverage, check out Emma as well. Other than that, have a great weekend. We'll talk to you guys next time. Again, we've got some stuff coming from Keyser on the website there. I think he talked to Carl Taylor, so he's going to have a story up tomorrow about Carl Taylor. So and the Admirals as well. So lots of good stuff coming as we get into prospect AHL draft season, because that's, I guess, until Barry Trotz is making a decision. So maybe it's like, are we gonna have a new pope before we have a decision on the coach? Is Barry Trotz gonna send up some smoke out of the baby Space Needle downtown to see, let us know, hey, I've made a decision. We've got white smoke. We've got white smoke. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm very big into I've got a lot of pope content in the algo right now.
I was going to say the jokes are shifting now. It was, last week the joke was, well, a new pope is going to get selected before Shedeur Sanders does. Now it's, well, a new pope is going to get selected before Barry Trotz speaks to the media.
Oh man, my wife's pope content is out of control. I don't know why she's all in on this, but I'm somehow getting secondhand pope content.
Honestly, it's a little bit of nostalgia for me. The Catholic school kid in me, we had to spend hours learning about this shit, like the conclave and how it works and how the election process works. Even, in my childhood, it only happened twice, but still it's like.
Have you watched the movie?
No, but I want to.
The movie. It's very good. So we watched it Saturday night, a Sunday morning. We watched it, or maybe it was Friday night. Because I was like, dude, I think you're going to want to see this movie. It's a bunch of actors that I don't know any of their names, but they're really, really good. They're all high-level B actors, and my wife knows all their names, and I think they're great, but I'm not good at this stuff. And I was like, dude, you're going to want to see this. And so as soon as I knew, I was like, oh, you're going to want to watch this. So we sit down and watch it. She's all in on it. And then the algo just becomes Pope content. It's like it's like a coaching search for her. She's doing what like we would do with the Preds. She's out there going like, well, this guy's he'd be the first Asian Pope, and he's from the Philippines. He's a little bit more progressive. Like she's got like scouting reports on all these Pope candidates. I was like, what are we doing? Anyway, thank you for listening. Emma, always a pleasure. We got lots of stuff planned for you guys in the off season, so don't go anywhere. Other than that, have a great weekend, everybody. We'll talk to you next time.